So again, let me officially welcome everyone to tonight's webinar on time management. My name is Dr. Tom Preston, President and Founding Director of Full Circle Coaching and Consulting. And if you're here and you're asking yourself questions like this, how many of you find that life just keeps going faster and faster every year? I can remember as a young person, I had the privilege of looking after my aunt's home while she was away on summer holidays for several months. They had a granny suite in the basement. And my 90-plus-year-old grandmother lived in the granny suite. And I got the privilege of having dinner with the grand matriarch of our family every night for over 2 months. And it was really fascinating as I talked to Grandma about these issues that actually tie back to this concept of time management. And, I said, Graham, is it true that life, just goes faster every year? And she laughed and kind of tisk like only a grandmother can. And she said, Tom, sometimes I look in that mirror and I wonder how that old person got in my body, right? So time is one of those things that's inevitable, at least in this, version of reality. And it's something that just seems to go faster and faster, at least the older I get. So learning as much as we can about it and learning how to master it seems to me to be very wise. And this is by far the most common thing I've run into in my 18 years as a professional coach consultant. Yet a lot of people tell me that they've got more week left at the end of the week than time. It just seems like there just isn't enough time to do all of the things that need to be done. So if those are the kinds of questions about time management that you're asking yourself, then you certainly are investing, your time in the right place. If you would like to see a bigger image of the slides, if you hover your mouse over top of it, there's actually a maximize button there. It'll actually give you a little bigger picture of the slides. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I actually grew up in a rural hobby farm in north central Ontario here in Canada. And really the only tool that my family had to use was the tool of time. And like a lot of people in rural or farm folk, if you will, they basically just knew only one way to get more productivity. And that was to just work longer and or work harder. So I basically learned that from a young age. And I was up doing, chores, milking the cows we had on the hobby farm and doing the chores every morning at 6 a.m. from the time I was 12, 13 years old until I went off to university. I know what it's like to put 12 and 14 hours in a tractor. I've done it, been there, done that. So again, it was something that what I call farm boy mentality. And I certainly don't say it in a derogatory way because those skills, those characteristics actually helped me, to become a good student at university. Because I knew, for example, in the world that I lived in, that there was lots of kids at university that were brighter than I was, but I figured I could outwork them. And sure enough, that's what I did. So it's not like that's necessarily all a bad thing, but when your only default position when you get stressed is to think you got to work longer and harder, it really puts a ceiling on you. There's only so far that you can go and you can do things. For example, when I started my chiropractic practice years ago, I was working 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday and a half day on Saturday. That's farm boy mentality shining through. And again, it helped me get started. It helped me get going. But it wasn't necessarily the wisest, thing in the world. And so I quickly realized as I grew my business and developed a family, I'm a father of 5, I got 5 beautiful daughters, beautiful wife, that if I was going to live the life that I wanted to live and maximize my time and not just become a boring workaholic, that I needed to learn a lot about time management. And I basically, devoted the last 25 plus years of my life to studying this thing called time management and what it means to me. And what I want to do tonight is basically pass along some of those secrets in a condensed or Clifford Cole's Notes version to you, with the intention being that as a result of our time together tonight, you will become a more efficient time manager. You will not be a boring workaholic. You could actually spend the time with the hobbies that you love and the family and the friends that you love and the sports that you enjoy, as well as being more efficient and effective in the work that you do. That's my intention for tonight. I feel like we have a great opportunity to honor that and to fulfill on that tonight. So why don't we dive into that? But before we do, there's actually a cute little graphic my team put together of Tom, the farm boy, and then Tom, the relatively successful business person. I want to share with you a short testimonial one of my clients, consulting clients, shared with me several years ago. He said, over the past 2 years, Dr. Thomas helped me recognize the degree that I was suffering from red cape syndrome. That's called Superman syndrome. It's doing it all yourself. While I was achieving great success and living an amazing life, I lived as though I had to do it all alone. Dr. Tom has coached me out of oppressive self-pressure and into a life that includes others in creating my ideal life. My time is intentionally spent, and that's the line I want you guys to focus on. My time is intentionally spent doing the things I love to do and doing the things that enable me to do what I love. So there's basically 6 things we're going to focus on tonight, folks, okay? The first thing is the key awareness about time that has subsequently made me millions of dollars as a business person. The second thing we're going to focus on is the single most important question you should be asking yourself about time management. Then we're going to get into this whole sort of, land of Merlin the Magician, where we're going to talk about how literally people slow down a time or speed it up. The fourth point we're going to talk about is the secret to multiplying time effectiveness. Then we're going to go into this thing that I learned from Richard Branson, who is Sir Richard Branson, actually, who is the president of the Virgin group of companies. They seem to be growing every month or two. So last time I checked, there was 366 divisions to Virgin. And he runs these things from his island paradise in the British Virgin Islands, where he works out at least 2 hours a day and so on. So this guy knows something about time management. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take a principle from economics to learn how to increase your effectiveness of time. So there's 6 basic points that I want to cover over time together tonight. And then I'm going to be showing you folks a few suggestions. I got a couple of books I'd like to recommend. And also an opportunity, if you'd like to dive deeper into this and to really take an immersion depth into this, certainly I'll share with you an opportunity to do that as we get towards the end of the time together tonight. So this is the single most important thing I want you to take away from tonight, and that is basically this next point. If you remember nothing else about tonight, or you don't take any notes, just memorize this one piece. And when you hear this point I'm going to share with you, you're going to think, oh, that can't be that important. It's too simple. It's too straightforward. Now, I would offer from my experience now and almost 30 years in business that it is those simple little things that are right in front of our face that are often the key distinctions that will take people of the caliber, the kind of people that are on this call tonight, and really, catapult them on to the next level. So that piece I want to share with you is this simple little awareness. And if you're someone that jots notes, please jot this down. Not everything you do with your time is of equal importance. It's so simple, folks, right? But just hang on to that for a second. Commonly back in the old days, people used to tell you to just, you write down your to-do list and you just keep working off your to-do list and, you just try and get it all done by the end of the day, which most people didn't. And then they took that bit of guilt and lack of feeling good about themselves, to sleep that night, got up and tried to catch up on the things that they did the day before, plus add a whole bunch more, which usually put them behind again, which gave them another excuse to feel bad about themselves, beat the crap out of themselves. And then, basically they just always fell behind. And they were really going to, okay, I just need to add more hours to the day or to the week. So I need to work longer, work harder in order to get all this stuff done. And one of the reasons that people do that is because they're putting equal importance on every task they do. And my offering to you is this. It's one of the core concepts that we use at our company, Full Circle. I contend that all living things, including everybody on this webinar, all living things, were put on this planet for a certain reason. They're here to fulfill their purpose, if you will, right? And purpose is defined in Webster's as the reason something exists or is done. Okay, the reason something exists or is done. So there's a reason why things exist. There's a reason why you exist. There's a reason why you do what you do. And to the degree that we can get that clarity about who we are, who we're not, and what it is that's important for us to do, not just for ways for us to spend our time, but the important things to do to fulfill that purpose, that is what makes all the difference in the world. Because as I said, all living things want to express themselves in a certain unique way. Moths always want to go to a flame. You put a flame or a light on, a moth's going to go there every time. That's how it wants to express itself. Salmon, always up the same stream every stinking spring. It doesn't matter where you put them in the world, they'll find a way to get to that stream and head up that way. Geese in the fall always want to fly south, and now this time of year, here we are in Canada, and we're seeing them fly north again. It's like they want to express themselves in a certain way. And I contend that you want to express yourself in a certain way, and so do I. To the degree, as I said earlier, that we get that clarity, is to the degree that life takes on a whole new meaning, and we stop wasting time, because we realize that not everything we do is of equal importance. And one of the easiest things to do to clarify and to get that level of, I don't know a better word than clarity, folks, is what I call a core values review or a core values analysis. And we'll talk more about that in one of the other points. But I contend that our core values literally personify and put into time and space the essence of who we are. Call it soul, call it spirit, call it essence, call it whatever you want, but there's something inside of us that wants to express itself in a certain way. For me, part of my expression is as a teacher. Part of it is as a father. Part of it is as an athlete. Part of it as a business person. Part of it as a coach. Part of it as a healer. Part of it, I've got lots of different aspects to my expression, as do you. But I'm crystal clear about what those are, and I'm crystal clear within each one of those categories how I choose to express myself. And as a result of that, the days of wasting time, the days of just working harder instead of working smarter, the days of some of the other principles we'll talk about are gone for me. Let me tell you about a day in my life, folks. It was a eureka moment for me. We built our dream home on a lake here in our community, a 5,000 square foot dream home. It was on a gorgeous lake, and it was a property that was more than a half an acre, about 6/10 of an acre. And with all of the grass and the grounds and stuff, if I absolutely hauled ass, I could cut that grass in about 2.5 hours. And then, you sweep off the stoops and this walkways and all that kind of stuff. So within, 2.5-ish hours, 3 hours, if I was going a little slower, I'd get this process done, which took, basically once a week, we'd cut the grass. I'd cut the grass. So one day I'm finished cutting the grass, and I'm sitting out on the lawn. I'm looking out at the lake, and there's a gentle breeze blowing, and it's warm, and I'm sipping on a cold beverage. And I said to myself, man, do I ever love cutting grass. And then it was one of those, one-handed clap moments, right? Where I realized I love the smell of fresh cut grass. I love the pride of ownership of having a beautiful property. I love the look of a manicured lawn. I don't love cutting grass. And that little eureka moment for me, folks, because it was just another thing on my to-do list to do on a Saturday morning. And when I realized that piece, that I love the smell of fresh cut grass, the manicured lawn, and the pride of ownership, not the process of cutting grass, I have not cut grass to this day. And that was back in the early 90s. It's very common for me in the early days, to hire one of my practice members' kids to cut the grass. When my own children got old enough, they cut the grass. I haven't cut the grass in coming up to 25 years. And the reason, folks, is because I don't love cutting grass. I'm not inspired to cut grass. If you're inspired to cut grass, it fulfills your values, it just lights you up inside, then by all means, for God's sakes, cut the grass. But if you're someone that doesn't do it, you do it because you think you're supposed to, because you think you have to, you ought to, you got to, because that's what your dad or mom did, and that's what your neighbors do, then I would suggest you're actually wasting your time and wasting your money by cutting grass. Let me give you an example. Commonly with the consulting work I do and in my chiropractic practice, I can earn upwards of $300, $400, $500 an hour. And I'm going to bet that you probably can too in your business. If I can pay somebody $15 an hour to cut my grass, it's costing me, let's use the number 300 an hour, it's costing me 300 minus the 15 that I would be earning to be paying somebody else in essence to cut the grass. 300 minus 15, it's costing me $285 an hour to cut my own grass. I am no rocket scientist, folks. I'm not an economics genius, but I don't think that's good economics. And I would offer, there are things in this world that you're still doing, you're continuing to do, out of ought to, got to, have to, or out of obligation or guilt. It doesn't inspire you. You can't see how it links or connects to your core values. You're just doing it because it's on a list or it's out of habit. I'm asking you, the first key to time management is to recognize that not everything you do is of equal importance, and to get clarity about what it is that inspires you and what it is that it connects to your values and why, God loved you into existence to be here. And when you work from that place and you operate from that place, your effectiveness and efficiency in your personal and your professional life will absolutely skyrocket. I can't promise you much, folks. I can absolutely 100% promise you that. All right, well, now that we've got that baseline established, I want to share with you the single most important question in time management. This literally, for my clients, becomes a mantra. It's become a mantra for me. And I ask myself this question over and over and over again. And that question is quite simply this. Is this the highest and best use of my time? Is what I'm doing in this moment the highest and best use of my time? It's an inside-out type question. It takes a while to develop that clarity. And if you haven't spent the time to really nail down your core values, you may not have the answer to that. So again, I can't place a high enough level of importance, folks, on knowing your core values inside out, forwards, and backwards, and how everything that you do in your personal professional life ties to and supports your core values. Because as I said earlier, your core values are an expression in time and space of the essence of who you are. And that's that expressing yourself from that place, that special gifts that you're here to offer the world, whatever it is. That's really what you, in my opinion, should be focusing on, and doing that to the exclusion of all else. You can't believe the amount of time my clients get when they stop wasting time and stop focusing on things that aren't linked to their core values, either personally or professionally. It frees up an enormous amount of time and gives them the time that they want to do to enjoy their families, their holidays, their spouse, their recreation time, their sports, and so on. Okay? So there's an exercise that I'd like to share with you that I believe will help you get the clarity on answering the question, is this the highest and best use of my time? We call it a dump, delegate, do exercise. And it's really quite a simple exercise, or the 3D exercise. What you do is you start down by writing down everything that's on your mind. And I mean everything. I got to take the garbage out, I should be raking the leaves, I wonder what that marketing effort's going to be like, should I give myself a raise, should I fire my bank manager, to everything that's on your mind. Get it off your mind and get it down on paper. I'm still old school this way. I still actually write this out with a pen and paper. There's certainly, you could do it on a Word document or something, or Google Drive or whatever. I mean, that's also fine. I just seem to connect better to actually physically writing it out. Once you've got everything that you can imagine in your mind, physically, emotionally, and personally, professionally, then just put it down for an hour or two, come back to it, reread it. Usually it'll spark your memory. You'll get a few more things to write down. Once you've got everything written down, you'll find your shoulders probably drop about a half an inch. You relax a little bit. And at that point, what you want to do is go back over the list, and you want to dump everything off the list that you can that is not directly tied to your core values. It's not something that really resonates. It is not the highest and best use of your time. Okay? And if you've done this really well, you'll dump 10, 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50% of the stuff that's on your list. Worrying about things and thinking about things that just really aren't the best use of your time, that aren't, important for you in terms of fulfilling your purpose, your reason for being here on the planet. Anything that you can't dump, the goal then is to delegate as much as you can. And again, the key to delegation, folks, is to make sure you get agreement to delegate. You can't just start dumping things off to your spouse. Trust me, I've tried it. It doesn't work very well. Or to your staff or something. You've got to get an agreement to it. So you put their name down, a possible timeline that you think would be ideal for you. And then, of course, at a point later, you can then communicate with them and say, hey, honey, do you think that you could take this task of getting these quotes on the lawn work this year? And could you get that done by the end of the month? Obviously, there's dialogue and coordination with that. But you want to definitely make sure that you've got, with anything you delegate, you have a deadline, and that you're wise enough to follow up on the accountability once you've got the accountability. All right? If you can't dump it, you can't delegate, you got to do it. Right? And again, with this list, you want to be sure these are things that are always the highest and best use of your time. Things that are going to move you forward towards fulfilling your life's purpose, or things that, as I said earlier, inspire you. Like if cutting the grass inspires you, by all means, make sure that you're cutting the grass. Make sure you're cutting the neighbor's grass. Volunteer to cut the grass at the firefighter's hall. Whatever it is that inspires you, be sure that you're doing some of that. Once you've got this list of things you're going to do, you want to go through and you want to prioritize and time prioritize these things. What that looks like is literally taking everything that is things that are at the priority in terms of time, things that need to happen in the next couple of weeks in order to move everything else forward. You're going to put an A beside those things. Anything that's sort of the next level of time urgency that's maybe needs to get done in the next month or so, month and a half, you put a B down beside. Anything that's the next level of time priority, like say in the next couple of months, you put a C. And anything that's a really cool idea, but it's farther out than a few months, you put a D. Once you've got this, you might end up with 7 A's and 3 B's and 10 C's or whatever it works out to be. Then you go back through and you reprioritize based upon A1, A2, A3, and so on. And what you're basically saying with A1 is that this is the highest and best use of my time. This is the most important thing for me to focus on right now. You estimate and guess at how much time it's going to take you to accomplish that thing. I call it a guesstimate, a guess and an estimate, a guesstimate. And then some of these things are like 15-minute phone calls to your accountant. Some of them are 3-hour writing projects or 10-hour writing projects. Some are whatever they are. When you estimate the time, it gets it easier to slot them into your time management system. And we'll talk about how to lay out a time management system in a few minutes. But basically when you've got all that structure, you can then go and you know what is the highest and best use of your time because you put the thought and you've planned it and you've manifested. I look at this on a macrocosmic level, look at this over the course of a year when I do my AGM, my annual planning meeting with my team. I look at this on a monthly basis as I lay out my, what we call our MOA planners, which we'll talk about later. I look at this on a weekly basis, on a Sunday evening when I reprioritize the things that I'm going to focus on that week. I do it on a daily basis, on a morning basis when I check back in with what's important for me to do that day. And then I ask myself over and over again, what is the highest and best use of my time? I can tell you a common trap that I fell into and many of my clients have fallen into with this particular issue. It's called the integrity or the commitment trap. And how it first presented to me was when I used to pick up a book. If I picked up a book, and even if the book sucked and I'm partway through it and I'm bored and I'm drifting away and I'm dreaming and I'm reading it, I made a commitment to read that book. And out of a sense of integrity, I was going to finish that darn book. And I get to the end of the book and a lot of times I'd go, that was a waste of time. That was one of those examples, folks, where I realized when I'm reading a book, I'm asking myself that question as well. Is this the highest and best use of my time? If it's not, I put the book down. And I now have actually several books, probably a dozen or so books over the last 4 or 5 years that I've actually put down. I put a bookmark there. I feel like when I'm ready to read that book, if ever, it'll speak to me. I'll speak to it, whatever. We'll get in communication. Somehow somebody will reference a book and I'll go, oh, yeah, I got that book on my shelf. Otherwise, I might never touch it again. So don't get trapped in this integrity commitment trap and say, well, I committed to doing that, so I need to follow through. That doesn't mean you dump everything, left, right, and center, folks, obviously. But it's a trap that people with integrity fall into because they feel like, they've got to follow through on what they said they were going to do because they made a commitment. But I would offer that the commitment, folks, that is actually above that or before that is the commitment you made when you came into form to fulfill your life's purpose, to do the important work, to do the work that supports your values personally and professionally. That's the first commitment. And if you're going to honor a commitment, folks, I hope and intend and pray that basically you would honor that commitment because that is, in my opinion, the first priority. All right? Let's move on to point number 3. How is it that you speed up or slow down time? Because I have talked to people that were, middle-aged that had the wisdom of someone that was, much older. And I've also had people that were just not really all that wise despite their advanced years. And I would contend that literally this whole concept of speeding up or slowing down time is one of the reasons why these people appear so wise. I learned this principle years ago, folks, when I was a young man dating, and I'd be spending, a relatively what I thought was a short amount of time with my girlfriend, and I realized that 4 hours had gone by. And it's like, damn, how did that happen? I saw the other extreme of this when I was in the dentist chair, which I love my dentist, but I don't love necessarily the process of dentistry. And I'm sitting in this dentist chair for what felt like hours, and it turned out that I was only there for 22 or 23 minutes. And it's like, man, time is totally a perception, right? And there's a big push right now, of course, in healthcare to live to be 100 and centenarians and all this stuff. I got no problem living to be 100. Matter of fact, I've been epigenetically programming to live to be 129 and not be drooling oatmeal down the side of my face. So I've got no problems with living to be a ripe age. But I would far rather live a quality life than a quantity life. And so I would offer folks that how we speed up or slow down time comes back to this concept I brought up earlier, which is the concept of living according to your core values, okay? I have 4 core values: family, love, connection. And again, the reason that's sort of got 3 words in there is because it's a feeling I have, and not one of those words really completely does it. It's like a conglomeration or assimilation of all 3. Authentic spiritual expression, which includes my business, freedom and adventure, and health, right? And I contend that those of us that are conscious about our core values are living them consciously and intending how we use our time, both our recreation and personal time as well as our business time. And we're using it wisely, and we're using it according to our value systems, okay? Because I would offer that everyone is always working and living from their values. It's just that not everybody's aware of it. If you actually become aware of your core values and know what they are and can see and plan your life personally and professionally to link to those core values, that's when you become a magician. That's when you become Merlin. Because that way you are now speeding up or slowing down time as you see fit. For example, folks, right? In order to honor my core value of freedom and adventure, my brother and I and a couple of other friends took off to Africa a couple of years ago. It's a picture of my brother and I about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way up Mount Kilimanjaro, which for those of you who don't know is the tallest peak in the continent of Africa. Absolutely phenomenal trip. If you can see in the background, you can see that we're above the clouds there. That was one of the coolest experiences actually of that, honoring the value of freedom and adventure, was I lived above the clouds for about 5 days on this particular experience, right? It was a magical experience. It felt literally, folks, like I lived about 3 months for the 2 months that I was gone. And the reason I'm offering that is because it was supported my core values. It supported my core value of freedom, of adventure. And so I was living life richly. I was living life fully. And my perception of time and space completely collapsed in upon itself. And even though we were only there a couple of weeks, I felt like I'd lived months and months and months. The cute picture, my brother and I on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. This was actually my brother's idea. I can't take credit or blame for this. He's up at the top, and it wasn't a blizzard. It wasn't terribly nasty. As a matter of fact, it was only a few degrees below zero at that particular moment in time. You'd see the blue sky. My brother said, "Bro, being good Canadian boys, we got to take a snapshot shirtless." So not to be outdone by my brother, we ripped our shirts off and took a picture, and then promptly put them back on again. Because again, time is largely a perception, folks, right? So when, to the degree that you can honor your values and live according to them, you can compress or expand time depending upon which direction you want it to go. One other piece as we talk about this before we move on to the next point is this. If you really want to squeeze the juice out of life and increase the power of your sense of time mastery and connection, then look for incongruencies between your values and how you're living your life. Look for incongruencies between what you value and how you're living your life. I'll tell you a story. A client of mine years ago from Oakville, Ontario, happened to be a chiropractor. He said that his number one value was family and connection. And yet when we actually did a time study, we realized that in the time study, he was only spending, on average, 6 hours a week with his children and his family. 6 hours a week. Of the 160-hour week, folks, he didn't feel like that was even close to enough. That incongruency was so glaring to him that he literally made a strong commitment right there to his coach that he was going to clean that up. And over the course of the next 30 days, we made radical changes to his office hours, to some of the other commitments he had, the boards he was sitting on, and some of the service clubs he was belonging to. He changed his commitments so he could get back in integrity with his core values. His life took on so much better meaning, and the congruency in his communication became so much stronger. Because here's the piece, folks, right? 93% of human communication is nonverbal. So how you live your life, how you manage your time is actually really important for your life, obviously, but also for your business. Because in a classic sales cycle, people must know you, must like you, they must trust you. And people have a subconscious BS meter. And if you're not living in congruence with your values, and you're talking about living according to your values and living preventatively and proactively, and you're only spending 6 hours a week with your family, there's a lack of power behind your nonverbal communication. It's not the words we say, folks, it's what's behind the words. So cleaning up those incongruencies can literally change. In this particular doc, his practice in the 90 days from the day he made that commitment grew by almost 25%. And he didn't do anything directly to his business, but he cleaned up an incongruency in his life that allowed him to have more juice in his life. He really expanded his sense of time. Literally, he just felt like he was living months. He was only living weeks at a time. It's a very powerful exercise, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. Let's go on to point number 4. Multiply your time effectiveness. There is actually a way to do this, okay? And one of the keys to this is to really cluster, intensify different energy signatures of time, okay? I'll take you an example. Being a father of 5, my wife being, for many years, a mom that chose to stay home and work out of the home. Laundry with 6 women in the house, counting my wife, could literally become a daily friggin' occurrence, okay? Literally. But when we learned to cluster intensify time, and I enrolled my wife in this idea, and she clustered the laundry, literally, as crazy as that sounds, and she did it twice a week in clusters, right? Then she found she had a whole lot more time and a whole lot more energy to do other things in life, rather than feeling like this crazy job was never done. It was just a big pain in the butt. And, we educated our daughters and said, I don't care if you just wear your favorite pair of jeans you have to wash. We do wash here on Sundays and Thursdays. Anything in between, you can learn how to do it yourself. Otherwise, that's when we're clustering and doing that. And to the degree that you can cluster intensify different energy signatures is to the degree that you add a lot of efficiency and effectiveness to your life. okay? So that's why, for example, I'm a big fan of chiropractors cluster intensifying their time, because the energy of an adjustment is a different energy signature than the energy of extended appointments. And I had this story told to me one time, and I'll share it with you for a possibility, because it meant a lot to me at the time. Imagine that you got your convertible and you got your honey, and you're cruising down Highway 1 in California, the one that rolls right along the edge of the coast. And you got, the mountains on this side, the foothills on this side, you got the ocean on this side, and you're cruising and it's a gorgeous day, and you're in, you got a manual transmission, you're in fifth, sixth gear, and you're just rolling. And then you come around a corner and all of a sudden, crap, there's a construction zone. And you got to gear down and basically, slow down and pick your way through the trucks and the flag people and stuff. And then you gear up and you start to cruise again. And then, there's another construction site, and you gear down. All of that gearing up and all of that gearing down wastes energy. And so when you're trying to stick in new clients into the middle of your day, and when you can see them fit in, you are decreasing and lowering your effectiveness and efficiency, not increasing it. It has been proven over and over and over again in time management studies that multitasking does not increase efficiency, does not save you time, it wastes you time. When I took a speed reading course years ago, one of the first things that I learned was that 45 to 55% of the time you waste reading is your eye scanning to get back to the next line, eye scanning to get back to the next line. So literally just using your hand or a pen or a ruler or something to keep your eyes focused on the different lines will increase your speed by 45 to 55%. The point I'm illustrating is this: to the degree that you can take the energy of the tasks you're doing in life and cluster them together and hold them in harmony that way and do them in chunks, is to the degree that your efficiency and effectiveness will start to skyrocket. Generally speaking, I'm offering 3 different types of energy signatures: the energy of being, the energy of doing, and the energy of having. Okay, and being energy is who you're being or becoming as a human being, or as a business person. It's reading, it's studying, it's meditating, it's reflecting, it's being coached, it's working with your accountability group. It's that energy of growth. Doing is pretty straightforward. It's all the things you do in your life, from playing squash with your friend on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock to I would offer that in a chiropractic environment, the energy of adjusting is a doing type energy, right? Where we're adjusting people in a sense of flow. All of the things that you do in life can be clustered into this particular category. Of course, the have things are literally enjoying the fruits of your labor. It's celebrating all of the great things you've got. And I would offer that one of the biggest mistakes I see people do is that they don't have a full day of just have, particularly with today's culture being so obsessed with technology and iPads and iPhones and different technologies like that. They never get away from the office. They never get away from their business. And as a result of that, they rarely come back to the office, say on a Monday morning, completely recharged. So as you're laying out a calendar, if you could look at just a 7-day calendar, I would ask you to cluster intensify to the degree that's humanly possible. You start your 7-day calendar by having at least one, maybe you've got 2 or 3, but at least one full have days. Commonly for most people with children and so on, it's on a weekend, but whatever it is for you, it's a have day where you don't do anything but enjoy the fruits of your labor. I often will get clients to actually map this out and to pre-select what they're going to do in that day so they don't default back into old habits, which is, sneaking back into the office to just do up a few more reports or do up a few more emails or whatever, right? Once you got your have days on your weekly planner, then what I want you to do is go to your things that you do. And I want you to basically fill in all of those things that you do on a regular basis. You play squash on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. You adjust and work in your clinic between here and here, and you take the kids to ballet class here, all the things that you do. When you go shopping, I ask you to cluster intensify your those kinds of habits so that you do them in chunks. Learn to cluster intensify your household chores so that you do them in chunks of time. Watch your efficiency and effectiveness increase. The last thing, of course, is to look for be time. Chunks of time where you can just focus on who you're becoming as a human being and or particularly who you're becoming as a business person. And I would offer that if you really want to assure you've got growth in life, you should be looking for 4 to basically 8 hours a week of be time. If you are putting in 4 to 8 hours of being, focusing on who you're becoming time, I absolutely promise you're going to grow. And people say, oh my God, how could I do that? I don't have enough time. And that's exactly the problem, right? Cluster intensifying time is one of the main keys to time management. Let's move on to point number 5. This is Richard Branson's time management key: leverage and delegation. How does this man from the British Virgin Islands run an empire that brings in billions, with a B, billions of dollars of revenue? His personal net worth is well over $2 billion. As I told you on the introduction, I think there's 366 at least. There's probably more by the time, because it increases all the time. 366 working divisions of the Virgin Group, right? And how does he do that is, again, he remembers really clearly that not everything you do is of equal importance or of equal value, which is basically our point number one, right? He also remembers from reading his memoirs, his writings, that he realizes that everybody was put here to do certain things. And to the degree that he does those things that someone else was put here to do is to the degree that he's ripping those people off and he's wasting his own time. It's like my example of cutting the grass. It costs me $285 an hour to cut my own grass. That's not smart. That's not good economics. That's not leverage, right? To the degree that we're in the way of other people and doing what it is that they're inspired to do, what brings them joy. I'll give you an example. I have a plumber in our community who's our plumber. His name's Mark. Mark is the single most inspired plumber I've ever met in my life. This guy can talk American standard toilets. He can talk, Kohler fixtures. He can tell you the intricacies of unclogging a plugged toilet. I mean, this guy is into plumbing. I don't love plumbing. I'm glad I have Mark in my life. I'm happy to write the checks to Mark, right? But he's actually inspired by what he does. Anytime that I would be foolish enough to get in and do his job by unclogging a toilet or putting in a new faucet or something. Now, again, let's be clear. If it inspired me, that's a different story. That doesn't inspire me. That's not the things that juice me. So again, anytime I'm doing that, I'm ripping Mark off, not just of a way for him to feed his family, but of the thing that he was creatively loved to do here on the planet. My accountant, the driest son of a gun you ever met in your life. I love this man. I don't want to spend any time with him personally, but he's dry. He's a bean counter in the classic sense. And man, he knows his accounting stuff. Anytime that I would be mucking around doing accounting stuff, not that I have done that in over 30 years, but to the degree that I would, I'm ripping him off of doing for what God loved him into existence to do. When you get this, folks, you realize that if you're not leveraging and delegating, you're being selfish, right? And I don't want to be. I'm a lot of things in life, but selfish is not one of those things that I really resonate with, nor I want to become. Just think, folks. Let's look at some of the, people of our era. People like Steve Jobs, God rest his soul. People like Bill Gates. People like Warren Buffett. Do you really think they answer their own phones? Right? I mean, no, of course they don't, because the bigger the vision, the bigger the team that's needed to support that. But one of the keys in order to be able to do that is you've got to learn to delegate. Great time managers learn to delegate. They trust the integrity of other people. They put accountability steps in place to ensure there's follow through. They always have a deadline. They always get agreement for accountability before they start. And then they have the courage to follow through and to hold people accountable. Because the greatest relationships in life are the ones that have equal amounts of support and equal amounts of challenge. And to the degree that you can find that balancing act with your team, support them and challenge them to grow and to be more of who they're meant to be, that is really where the true magic and joy starts to come in. And I'd reference John Maxwell's writings on this, folks, if you're someone that loves to read, as I do. John Maxwell has written many, many, many books. He's my new favorite guy in the world of leadership and so on. And he wrote a great book called The 5 Levels of Leadership. The 5 Levels of Leadership. And I would encourage you to pick that book up. And in that book, he talks about level 4 being people development, where literally the higher end leaders, level 4 leaders, are really just focusing on their people on their team and developing them. Delegating is one part of that, allowing them to express their greatness to the world and to do what it is their mission or purpose is, whether it's being an accountant, being a plumber, being a coach, being a chiropractor, whatever it is. Do that, do it really well, and delegate the other things and watch your efficiency and effectiveness skyrocket. Not to mention your profits, okay? However, if you think that all time has an equal use, you're probably not going to be a good delegator. So this all comes back literally to that very first principle we talked about, all right? Let's talk about point number 6. This comes from the world of economics, actually, from an Italian economist named Pareto. It's become quite famous. It's known as the 80-20 principle. And the 80-20 principle in time management basically says this. 20% of what you do gives you 80% of your results. That's basically what Pareto found in economics, is that 20% of what the industrialists were doing and the people in economics and finance were doing was giving them 80% of the results. So just like in economics, in your own business, in your own life, in your own personal life, to the degree that you can figure out what that 20% is, focus on doing more of it, focusing on mastering that, delegating and dumping out all of the other stuff that is not part of that 20% is to the degree that your efficiency and effectiveness in time management is going to skyrocket. In my study of this, I find that there are four main categories, regardless of what type of business you're in, that really are the key things to start looking at when you're looking for what is that 20% that gives you results. Again, these things need to be aligned with your core values. Everything comes back to your core values, your expression of your authentic greatness. What is it inside of you that wants to express itself? Moth to light, salmon up a stream, goose to flying south, right? That whole earlier piece we talked about. But to the degree that you can see how it's tied, these are the four places I want you to start looking. Number one, marketing and promoting of your business. Number two is training and educating yourself. Number three is training and educating your team. And number four is educating your clients to the value of your service. There's arguably a fifth one, folks, which is basically the concept of, again, of leverage and looking at allied philosophic congruent products and services you could add to your business. But I would rather, focus on the big four for now, right? This time of year, where this particular recording is being done, it's hockey season. The NHL playoffs are on. I'm a bit of a hockey buff. And Wayne Gretzky was arguably the greatest hockey player that ever lived. And I would offer folks, right, that it wasn't the stuff that Wayne did on the ice at the time of scoring the goals and making the assists and stuff that really defined him as a hockey player. Certainly that's where he got his glamour from, and certainly part of where he wrote his paycheck from. But it was the work he did behind the scenes, right? It was the stuff that he did off the ice. It's the tens of thousands of hours of passing drills and shooting drills and skating drills and all of the things that he did that made him great, that allowed him to go out and literally just have fun on the ice when he was in an NHL, game. This 20% that we're talking about, folks, the acronym that we use in our company is MOAs, okay? MOAs. It stands for Major Outcome Activity. Major outcome activity. And that's those four categories I talked about earlier. Training and educating yourself, training and educating your team, educating your clients, marketing and promotion. Okay. And to the degree, those are really where, remember I talked about earlier when we do the be, do, have delegation part of your time management system, your weekly sort of template, if you will. When those 4 to 8 hours of be time, that's where you're really going to plug in this 20% that you realize that gives you the biggest bang for your buck of time. That's where you want to plug those into those B slots, those MOA slots. I literally write MOA in my calendar, on my electronic calendar. I use Google Calendar right now. I love using color too, folks, when I'm laying out things. Purple is my family color. Personal is just green. My MOAs are in red. They really jump off the page at me. Due time is in blue. And I learned early on studying psychology at the University of Toronto that using color will really help your mind to focus. So a little tidbit there as you're planning out this 20% using Pareto's principle. Spend the time to learn what the 20% is that gives you results in your life and business. Make sure it's aligned with your core values. And then plug it into your time management system. And if you will commit to doing 4 to 8 hours a week of MOAs, of B time, clustered intensified B time. And let's be clear, folks. When I'm talking about B time, this isn't where you're, answering emails and sharpening a pencil. And you do that somewhere else. When you're in your MOA time and you're in your B, your becoming time, you're laser beam focused. You're getting a ton of stuff done in a really compressed period of time. This is not a time to be fiddling around and doing other things that are lower priority. This is high velocity, high focus time. That's why usually most people can only do 1 or 2 hours at a time without needing to take a break. I can usually only last a couple of hours and I need to take a break, get up, stretch my legs, get something to drink, walk around, take a break, come back, and then I can often plug back into another chunk of time. All right. Those are the 6 main points that I wanted to cover tonight. And I've got a couple of things I want to share with you before we close this up. So if you'll just stick with me for a minute, I got a couple of things that I think could be of value to some of you. I've talked a lot about core values. If you have not done a core values analysis, I beg you, plead with you to do that. If you've got access to some tools or you've got a coach, I would encourage you to talk to them about helping you define that. If you don't have access to that, we have developed a course. It's a 2-part course on defining your core values. It's available at our website, drtompreston.com/core-values. You can see it on the slide there. It's drtompreston.com/core-values. And If you do that, you can get a link to literally picking up this course. It's only 147 bucks. And it's a chance for you to go through the same guided process that I take our platinum coaching clients through to define your core values. It's usually supported by one of our authenticity coaches, one of our handpicked trained authenticity coaches, to give you that feedback. Because many times when you're doing this analysis, you kind of have blinders on to your life. And it's great when you do the work to have somebody that's skilled and trained to look over your shoulder and give you their perspective. Not that it's better than yours, it's just more experienced. And then you take an amalgamation of their feedback and your feedback and one other type of feedback we'll tell you about. And then from that place, you literally reflect and meditate on your core values. What we're willing to offer anybody that literally goes to that URL tonight, and of course this is timestamped, so we'll know if you went tonight. So we want to try and encourage people to get live on these webinars. A lot of people, we get all kinds of signups for these things, and then, about a third to half of the people actually show up. Well, if you are on tonight and you'd like to take part in that course for a measly investment, 147 Canadian dollars, then we would actually not just have one of our trained authenticity coaches respond to your work by email. They'll actually book a 20-minute authenticity call with you to run over it with you and run over possible incongruencies and places where you can add traction to your life and business as a result of spending that time. Okay? So again, it's pretty easy, drtompreston.com/core-values, and that'll take you to the URL. We'd also love to give you tonight, for spending time on the call, our MOA planner. Remember, that's that last point. That's the 80-20 principle. That's that 20%. It's literally a beautiful Excel spreadsheet that shows you how to tie to your core values, show you what your MOAs are worth, and literally gives you a place to write down your MOAs, one place, one time, and plan the entire month at a time. I actually plan an entire quarter at a time, 3 months at a time. But at the very least, I want to see you start getting into the habit of planning a month ahead and become more proactive and preventative. And that's my gift to you. So again, it's a pretty easy URL, folks. It's drtompreston.com/MOA-giveaway. That's drtompreston.com MOA-giveaway. And that'll take you to the download link where you can download that spreadsheet that I use every day of my life. It's helped me literally go from being a, workaholic farm boy to a, by my standards, successful, business person. If you'd like to dive even deeper into this concept, folks, we do 4 live events a year. Coming up in June, we actually have our live event in Toronto. It's literally called our Focus Program. It's designed to go in and look at things like time and money management. It's designed to go in and look at the blocks that may be holding you back. Because what I've found is a lot of times the same blocks people have about time are the same blocks they have about money. And you can become a very efficient time manager and still put a lid on your success in your business because of your relationship with money. We call these things ESOLs. They're energetic space-occupying lesions, right? Not like a cancerous tumor or something. You're energetic versions of that. They're limiting beliefs and false ideas you bought into to block you. And we're going to dedicate an entire weekend, starting Saturday at noon until Sunday at 3, to literally going through and releasing those things, helping you customize a time management and a money management system for you. So if you're interested, we found from the past, these are the kind of people that are saying these kinds of things to themselves, that are kind of people that fit really well at this program. People that say things like, I seem to be doing many things right, but my business just won't grow. Well, there's a subluxation somewhere, right? I work hard, but I don't have as much money as I feel I should. I start projects and don't finish them. I procrastinate. I'm frustrated and confused in my life. I don't have direction right now. I'm afraid of being judged by others. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of being too successful, right? I can just feel there's something blocking my success. I've heard many clients say that to me, right? Some people have this magical thinking, I just need to catch a break. That is not the case, I promise you, right? Other people just feel like, life and business have just been too darn hard lately, and they just feel like you just need to catch a break, right? If you're hearing yourself saying things like, I'm hardest on the people I love, I'm afraid I may have a scarcity consciousness, I have limiting beliefs, I know I do, then those are the kind of folks who would really fit in well, at the Focus Program. It's at the 4 Points by Sheraton on Mississauga Road, on Airport Road in Mississauga. The dates are June 2021. And again, the program doesn't start until noon on Saturday. So those of you that want to, fly in or drive in on the Saturday morning, certainly that's an option for you. We work into the evening that night and then hit it again early the next morning so that we're done by 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, and everybody, including me, is home Sunday night to be with their families. So that program is only $277. It's basically a lost leader for us. It's a chance for us to get people to function at a higher level. And as a result of you being on the webinar tonight, because you're here live, if you literally would like to invest in that time with us in June, we'd love to have you. And as a result of being live in the program, only people that are live in the program tonight, you can literally if you invest in your tuition for that weekend, you can get the second one for 50% off. So bring a spouse, a business partner, or a teammate, a family member. I mean, this is not a chiropractic program, folks. This is a life program. It's designed to go in and give people those skills that will help them be the most efficient and effective version of them they can. So if you go to our URL here, it's seminar.drtompreston.com, seminar.drtompreston.com. And if you just put in the coupon code Core Values at checkout, it'll basically give you that extra discount that I just announced there. All right, folks. Well, listen, before we wrap this all up, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your lives to be here. It's part of my purpose to be here tonight, to share my thoughts with you. My intention, as I set out from the get-go, is that one or more of you, as a result of our time together tonight, will become more efficient and effective in your time management. And as a result of that, you'll get to fulfill more of your purpose. Because as this slide clearly demonstrates, folks, I really feel strongly that it is a series of interconnected purposes in this linked chain. That's how I image it, right? Every person on the planet has a certain way they want to express themselves, as I said earlier. That's our link. That's our piece. That's our piece of the chain. And to the degree tonight that I fulfilled my purpose, you've allowed me into your lives, into your homes, to fulfill my purpose by sharing my thoughts to you and teaching, then I can go to bed tonight feeling fulfilled. But as a result of my time with you tonight, God willing, you can be more efficient and effective your purpose personally and professionally even more fully. And as a result of that, you can touch the lives that you're destined to touch. And they can go out and fulfill their purposes, whether they're car salesmen or they're plumbers or accountants or what it is they do. And by them fulfilling their purpose, they touch other lives. And so on and so on and so on is the great interconnected purposes that I contend the creative intelligence in the universe designed this to be. To the degree that we're clear on who we are and who we're not, to the degree we're clear on what our link is, to the degree that we're clear and focus exclusively in time management on doing those things that serve our values and fulfill our purpose, is to the degree that our link becomes rock strong, very, very unbreakable, if you will. I don't want to be the weakest link. And as a result of that, we touch other lives and touch other lives. So I'm asking you to consider these time management principles I've shared. I would be honored and privileged to have you come and join us in Toronto in June 2021 if you'd like to dive into this deeper. I'm guessing for many of you, you got what you needed tonight. And as a result of that, you can fulfill your purpose more clearly, which really, in the roundabout way, helps me fulfill my purpose, as I said earlier. And that is how this great interconnected purposes of life and how the great chain of life, continues and carries on. Please take to heart your purpose. Please take to heart your core values. Please take to heart your time. And remember those 6 principles that we shared and be more efficient and effective at what you do. It's literally not just affecting your lives, but indirectly thousands and millions, and if you allow me, billions, because I contend that everything we do affects every other person on the planet, all 7 billion of us. And there's days where I'm not strong enough to do it for me, but I'll do it for my family. I'll do it for you. I'll do it for all those other people that indirectly, by me fulfilling my purpose, I know I'm touching their lives. Thank you so much, folks, for spending time with us tonight. And I look forward to hearing from you in the future how things go. If you'd love to join us, we would love to have you at that focus seminar. Remember, just go to seminar.drtompreston.com. You'll get all the details. If you'd like to be sure you get that MOA giveaway, then go to drtompreston.com/MOA-giveaway. And if you'd like to take that core values course to really get a good essence of who you are, again, drtompreston.com/core-values. Thanks again so much for being here, folks. I look forward to seeing you on other programs we might do or seeing you in June. Good night. God bless.